Today, I'm going to talk about 5 foods that I recommend avoiding if you want to achieve longevity. The first one is ultra processed foods. The second one are processed meats. Third one is alcohol. Fourth one is fried foods. And the fifth one is soda. All right, ready? Let's dive in. The first thing I want to say is that there are many, many factors that contribute to longevity, which is really how long you're going to live. So let me just kind of walk through some of those factors. Number one, there's genetics. All right. Then there's the lifetime of exposures that you've actually had to harmful substances in the environment. Do you remember when you were a kid waiting for a bus or standing at a bus stop, and then that bus pulled away and belched some diesel fumes right into your face? Right? I do. That's an exposure. And then there's whether or not you actually have a disease or multiple diseases that can actually erode your health or health defenses. There's medications that you might be taking to help treat one condition, which might be beneficial, but the medications could have side effects that can have consequences for how long you live as well. All right. And then there's the amount of risks that you take in your life that can affect your longevity. Do you skydive? Do you base jump? Do you do free solo climbing? Do you cave dive? Or maybe you just drive really fast on the highway, right? These are all risks. And then there's sort of the pure luck of the draw, avoiding accidents, for example. Like you just happen not to be the person that the other guy coming down the road is actually going to hit. So I'm actually telling you this because there's a lot of things that can actually affect longevity. But we do know that diet and lifestyle play a huge role on whether you optimize the chances you're going to live a long time. Now, we're going to talk about the foods, but I want to talk a little bit about lifestyle too. If you, for example, are sedentary and you don't move a lot, don't exercise a lot, and you lose muscle mass, that actually compromises your chances of longevity. If you smoke cigarettes, really, really bad for your longevity. And by the way, it's not just cigarettes, really tobacco use. So some of the chemicals in tobacco, whether you inhale it or keep it in your jowl, has negative effects in your body. Vaping actually is also really harmful. It turns out years later that vaping can actually compromise your ability to live a long time. Other things that can actually, lifestyle-wise, if you don't get good quality sleep, sleep's actually quite important for longevity and brain health. And that can actually compromise you as well. So, point is, there's a lot of things that can affect longevity. And obviously, diet is one of them. Now, I'm actually doing research on longevity right now. So this is an area that I'm actually diving into. I can tell you it's quite complicated. The good news is that there are actually some foods that you can eat that actually improve your longevity. I'm not going to talk about it on this video, but I will make a video in the future that are actually going to identify what those foods are and how much you should eat. Okay, but for this video, let's talk about some of the foods that can shorten your life or compromise your longevity. All right. First food I want to point out are ultra-processed foods, UPFs. Now, UPFs, ultra-processed foods, are being talked about a lot. One of the things that is conclusive, really, from all the research that's been done, medical research that's been done, is that eating a lot of ultra-processed foods is harmful to your health. And it actually is correlated with lower longevity, okay? Less longevity. Now, it's really hard to avoid ultra-processed foods. You know, it's one of the things that most of us grew up with, you know. And by the way, ultra-processed foods were kind of invented as one of the big advances in the 1950s by the food industry. They made food tasty, cheap, and convenient. Like, what's better than that, right? So, you know, after World War II, society was becoming more prosperous, and food was becoming more widely available. So how do you actually get lots of food out? Make it cheap, make it tasty, and make it super convenient. And this actually led to this revolution at the time, an innovation at the time, that was called ultra-processed foods. So this revolution thought to help to solve hunger, democratize nutrition. And at that time, by the way, nutrition was really just macros like proteins and fats and carbs. But ultra processed food is basically using factories to machine and package foods that food chemists engineer to be tasty and taste really, really great, and adding synthetic materials to it, like preservatives that would help the products last longer on the shelf, or both in the grocery store and also at home. Right, that was considered an incredible innovation at one point. And then, of course, there's flavorings that get put in there. A lot of the flavorings are artificial flavorings. You see this a lot in ultra processed foods. It's really hard to know what those artificial flavorings are, or artificial colors, right? These dyes that actually make their way into foods. So flavorings, coloring, and preservatives, these are all additives that are put in there. Stabilizers, anti-caking, all kinds of emulsifiers, thickeners, all kinds of things that are added by the companies that are making these manufactured foods. This was considered a big innovation, but those are all ultra processed foods. Chips in a bag or in a tennis can like thing, those stackable potato chips that all look exactly the same. An interesting story behind that. And another form of ultra processed food that was once considered a huge innovation in the 1970s is an entire meal. Many of you may not remember this, but TV dinners were really in a foil tray, and you just pop the whole thing in the oven. Later, they put them in plastic, and you stuck them in the microwave, and within seconds, minutes, you actually had a piping hot, complete meal. Well, listen, that's not fresh cooked. And in order to make it taste great, additives were put in there to stabilize it, to make it cheaper. They skimped on some of the ingredients, but it did taste good, all right? And, these are innovations that led to the creation of ultra-processed food. You see them everywhere. If you take a road trip and you stop by the gas station, you fill up your tank and then you go into the gas station, into the store, and you see all the stuff hanging, that's all ultra-processed foods. If you're at the airport and you're on your way walking to the gate with your luggage and you stop by the news stand and you go in there and it's all, shelves and rows and displays filled with ultra-processed foods. That's what I'm talking about, all right? Now, here's the problem. It turns out that ultra-processed foods are associated with the development of chronic diseases. They actually increase your risk of developing chronic diseases that can shorten your life. That's actually something why you want to avoid ultra-processed foods. So what are some of the conditions that ultra-processed foods are linked to? Well, UPFs actually increase our risk for cardiovascular disease, for multiple types of cancer, for type 2 diabetes, and all the consequences of diabetes, metabolic problems, vision problems, kidney problems, vascular problems, blood vessel problems. Ultra-processed foods are associated with a higher risk of obesity and a higher risk of dementia as well. So regardless of how long you live, you actually want to be able to have a sharp brain, right? So you don't want to actually have dementia and live a long time with like really severe dementia. Well, look, ultra-processed food, is eating it, actually is attached to, connected to increasing risk for all of these. Now, we don't know the exact reason, the exact mechanism that ultra-processed foods cause these health problems, but what is true is that artificial preservatives and artificial flavors, these can all, and colors, they can all cause oxidative stress to our healthy cells. This can also damage DNA, and when you damage your DNA, okay, this speeds up the process of cellular aging. All right, so you want to live a long time, you don't want to speed up your aging. You want to, if anything, slow it down. All right, I'm not talking about anti-aging. I'm just talking about not speeding up the process of aging. All right, now, ultra-processed foods also often contain synthetic sweeteners that, that give your brain that sweet hit, or thickeners, emulsifiers. They give you mouthfeel, things that make the food appealing in some way, shape, or form. Well, these artificial sweeteners, for example, and some of the emulsifiers, the thickeners, have now been shown to damage your gut microbiome. Now, your gut microbiome are the 36 trillion healthy bacteria that live in your gut, in your colon, specifically in an area called the cecum, C-E-C-U-M, is right where the appendix actually is. Most of them live there. And these healthy bacteria are really, really important for your overall health and longevity because they help to improve your immunity, your immune defenses. They help keep your body sensitive to insulin, so they fight insulin resistance. They help manage your blood glucose level. They make your blood glucose very efficient. They lower inflammation. They prompt faster healing inside your body. And ultra-processed foods, eating them actually damages this gut microbiome and therefore damages this protective effect of your microbiome, of your healthy gut bacteria. You're damaging it. So, as a result of eating ultra-processed food, you can develop chronic inflammation. Now, that's a setup for almost every significant serious disease that can shorten your longevity. All right. And damaging your gut microbiome can lower your immune defenses. They can make you more vulnerable to bacteria and viruses. These are invaders outside of the body. And a lower immunity internally can also make you more vulnerable to cancer because your immune system conducts surveillance all day long, looking for tiny little microscopic cancers, and they find something abnormal. They just take them right out. All right. But when you actually have damage to your gut microbiome and you lower your immunity, all right, now these defenses, this gut microbiome function isn't working the right way. So you wind up actually becoming more vulnerable to invaders from the outside and the inside of your body. Now, ultra-processed foods also often contain artificial coloring. Now, some of these have actually been associated with cancer development and are banned in some countries, still used in ultra-processed foods available in other countries as well. Now, on top of all this badness, ultra-processed foods are often packaged in plastic, right? And now we know that plastic wrapping around food or foods, that are sold in plastic, those plastics can shed microparticles, microplastic particles into the food or the beverages. We know that this is the problem because you can now find microplastics in our bloodstream. And we also know that microplastics inside our body can stick to our blood vessels. And in fact, when the blood vessels start to get narrow, right, this is an atherosclerosis, clinicians, cardiologists, and neurologists have actually been able to find plastic particles embedded in the plaques that narrow our blood vessels. All right. And in fact, a study from Italy showed that if somebody has narrowing of their blood vessels and they've got microplastics studding it, it increases the risk of having a fatal heart attack or stroke by 4-fold. All right. Significant. All right. Microplastics are a big problem. We also know that microplastics accumulate in our brain. In fact, you can measure it on a scale how much plastic actually accumulates. Researchers have also found microplastics in the testicles, in human semen, and also in the human penis as well. So this microplastic issue, where food is ultra-processed foods are packaged in plastic, another reason that that's not good for your overall health. All right. So what's the solution to all of this? Look, what I'm trying to tell you is eat less ultra-processed foods. It's very hard to avoid all of it. All right. We're all human. All right. We're going to be eating some of this stuff just because. But if you know that it's not good for you and it actually shortens your longevity, you're going to be probably less likely to eat it all the time. All right. Hey there. Check this out. I've got a free resource for you, and it's my favorite disease-fighting vegetables for longevity. Now, these are the vegetables that I eat myself and personally look for when I go to the grocery store or visit the farmer's market or wherever I go shopping for food. My resource for you has all the food staples that you'll want to have on hand in your kitchen. To find out what they are, all you have to do is click on the link below and enjoy. Now, back to the video. So, here's what I'm telling you. When you go to the grocery store, focus on buying fresh produce. Frozen's okay too, all right? But hopefully not packaged in plastic, which a lot of frozen foods are, all right? Get fresh produce, fresh meats and dairy, if you eat those. Avoid things that are manufactured if you can. Anything in a factory or packaged up, okay, in a box, in a bag, in a jar, in a can. If you can avoid the things that have been made in a factory, you're cutting down your ultra-processed foods. Another little tip for you is I think buy ingredients rather than finished foods, right? So just buy the raw ingredients and then make it yourself. That way you can control everything that you're putting in your body. You know everything that's in there. And if you do buy something that's prepackaged, please check the ingredient label. And you want to look for the chemicals that you don't want in your body, right? You can do whatever you want, right? We live in a free country. But when you check the ingredient label, you can quickly identify the chemicals that are in the food. And you can ask yourself, is that something that I want to put into my body that could potentially cause oxidative stress and shorten my longevity? Then you can decide how you want to answer that question. All right. So basically, if you want longevity, eat more of the good stuff, polyphenol foods, whole foods with polyphenols, a lot of dietary fiber in order to actually, boost your health defenses. That's what I read about in my book, Eat to Beat Disease, right here. How to actually shore up your health defenses with whole foods and eat less of the bad stuff, right? The synthetic chemicals, the additives, the thickeners, these chemically modified foods, all right? What was once an innovation decades ago, they're now considered a health hazard. So we're going to eat it every now and then, but cut it down if you can't cut it out altogether, all right? And check the ingredient label so you're always looking for the problem. More of the good stuff means less of the bad stuff. And your health is going to thank you and give you more longevity. All right, so cut down ultra-processed foods if you want to live long. The second food that you want to avoid if you want to live a long time are processed meats. I'm going to explain to you why. Processed meats, look, humans are designed to eat meat. If you look at the human tooth, all right, and you can actually see that the tooth has got some sharp edges for cutting meat and it's got some crushing surfaces to eat plants. We're uniquely designed to be able to do this. Regardless of what vegetarians or vegans actually say, the history and biology teaches us that humans are actually designed to eat meats and seafoods, all right? So the bottom line is that humans have figured out from the very beginning, in terms of eating meat, how to make meats last longer, right? Back a long time ago, if you found an animal and were able to use its meat for food, the meat spoils pretty quickly. So one of the things that was done early on by early man is to figure out how to preserve that meat by curing, by drying, by smoking, or by packing it in salt, all right? And this is what you see when you go to the Mediterranean and walk by a salumeria or a cured meat shop, and you see all these hanging from the ceiling sausages and hams, in dry form. Well, what happened is that later on, factories developed, food factories, and the natural way of preserving meats became too slow or too expensive, right? So then meats became preserved by adding chemical preservatives right into it, like swimming pools of these preservatives. And you just threw the meat in there. You treat the meat with the chemical, you get a lot longer shelf life and the ability to store the meat a lot longer, not only in the store, but also in your home. These are processed meats. And you know what they are, right? The salamis, the deli meats. By the way, I learned recently that the way that some of these bolognas, for example, or sliced turkey that you would actually get in a deli, how they're made is they have this special crusher that actually is able to pulverize the scraps from animal carcasses and turn it into these like little meat shreds that then they add meat glue to it. And by adding meat glue to the meat shreds, you can mold it into the big, thick, circular cylinders that you actually see in a deli, right? Come on, talk about ultra-processed foods. That's not something that is natural at all. And then you can add all kinds of chemicals to it, additives, in order to be able to preserve it for a lot longer. Now, ultra-processed foods we know are associated with health harms. As I told you earlier, processed meats are part of ultra-processed foods. But there's one more thing. Processed meats have been classified as a class 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization, the WHO. What's a class 1 carcinogen? Well, it means that there's sufficient evidence in humans that eating them can actually trigger cancer. Sufficient evidence. All right. So that's basically how you need to be thinking about your deli meats. Now, for processed meats, the evidence really started with the increased risk of colorectal cancer. Makes sense, right? You're eating all these additives and preservatives into your gut. Eventually, your colon's going to get exposed to it. And so increased colon cancer risk is definitely there. But other forms of cancer are also now linked to consuming processed meat. So the solution, am I telling you never to eat a pepperoni pizza or a deli sub? No. Once in a while, probably fine. We're all human. We're all going to be eating stuff every now and then. And actually, some of the processed meats are quite tasty. All right. I mean, as if you're not a vegetarian or a vegan, got to admit, some of these processed meats taste pretty good. And you might have grown up with it. So it's kind of a comfort food. All right. But the key thing is that every time you eat processed meat, you are increasing your risk to your health. All right. You are potentially shortening your longevity every time you're doing it. All right. So ultimately, if you pull the trigger enough in this Russian roulette, you're eventually going to get the bullet to the head. All right. So the best approach is to cut down, if not cut out, processed meats. Eat it rarely, if ever at all. And if you want to treat yourself once in a while, I'd consider a more traditionally cured meat that might even have some healthy omega-3s from plants. For example, prosciutto di Parma is coming from pigs. That's a kind of ham. It's from Italy. It's a ham made from pigs that are fed acorns, and those acorns contain plant-based omega-3s, which are found in the fat of the pig. So the prosciutto, the ham, that specific kind, actually has some beneficial fats to it. Got a lot of saturated fat too, but it's got some good stuff. Choose, the less bad one. And another one that is less bad are the jamón de Iberico, right? This is Iberico ham from Spain, because those hams are made from pigs that eat chestnuts. And chestnuts contain all kinds of bioactives like ellagic acid, but also contain plant-based omega-3s, the ALA, aminolevulinic acid. So acorns and chestnuts actually give the pig some of the healthy fats that get incorporated in the fat of the pig. So it's in the ham. I'm not saying it's good for you. I'm saying it's less bad for you, and it's even got some of the benefits to it. Point is, whatever you do, try to avoid eating processed meats. Do it rarely. Treat yourself to a better quality one. All right. Third food to avoid is a beverage. Alcohol. Probably could have guessed it, right? Now, drinking alcohol is as old as humanity, because ever since humans were growing grains and barley and then grapes, these products were fermented. And when you ferment these foods, barley, grapes, you get alcohol. It's a natural chemical reaction, and people consume the alcohol, right? Alcohol is very much a part of our most important traditions. We have alcohol at weddings, funerals, holidays, graduations, celebrations. All right. So I'm saying all this because I want to just put right out there my position is that alcohol is an important part of our humanity. All right. That said, if longevity is your goal, then you should know that alcohol is also a potent toxin to the cells of our body. Alcohol kills brain cells, contributes to dementia. And in fact, there's even a special kind of dementia called alcoholic dementia. It actually shrinks your brain after it kills some of the neurons in your brain. Alcohol is also toxic to your heart and can contribute to heart failure. All right. When you have heart failure, that's basically when your heart is no longer a strong squeezing muscle. It's kind of a sad, loose sac that kind of wiggles a little bit to get pump blood out of your body. So you really need a good pumping action, lub-dub, in order to pump that blood out to every organ in your body. But if you got a heart failure and alcohol can actually cause this, your heart becomes kind of like this, kind of like weakling sac that it doesn't really get blood out. And now you got a problem, all right? And heart failure from alcoholism, it's actually a pretty significant problem that cardiologists see. Alcohol also kills liver cells. Now, your liver, which is one of the largest organs in your body, all right, is the body's detoxification organ. You've heard of detox, right? Well, your liver is doing it 24/7. And basically every bit of blood in your body goes to the liver, and it's got these sinusoids. Think about it's like a filter where all the blood runs through it, and your liver cleans your blood, takes all the toxins out, neutralizes the toxins, tries to figure out how to protect you so the blood that actually comes out from the liver actually clean, detox. Now, alcohol is poisonous to the liver cells as well at a high enough concentration that can shrink the liver. All right. And that's called alcoholic hepatitis. And if you have alcoholic hepatitis, guess what? Your filter, your detox machine is not working. So the toxins start running around in your bloodstream. And you want to, not just the alcohol toxins, other toxins as well. You're just not detoxifying your blood. You've compromised your own detox, and that's going to cut down on your longevity. Alcohol also kills nerve cells. Now, nerves, as you probably know very well, nerves control our muscles, the nerves control our gut, nerves even control erectile dysfunction. So when you kill nerves, all right, all of the functions are affected. And erectile dysfunction is quite common in people who drink a lot of alcohol. And of course, alcohol is also a mood killer. And in fact, you can be depressed by people who drink a lot are often depressed. So some people drink to escape from a bad situation, but alcohol directly affects the mood centers in your brain and in fact puts you in more of a funk, right? So you can, if you're already depressed and you're drinking, it will actually worsen your depression, all right? Alcohol also impairs good judgment. When it comes to your health, you want to have good judgment. You want to be in control, and you want to make good, sharp decisions when it comes to your diet, your lifestyle, and even basic safety, right? Like driving, operating heavy machinery, doing anything potentially dangerous, all right, becomes even dicier if you're drinking alcohol. And you know this, right? So, in short, if you want to actually achieve longevity, cut way down on your alcohol or eliminate it at all. Enough said about alcohol. I'm not here to lecture you about it. In fact, don't forget, I told you at the very beginning of this that alcohol is part of our humanity. What I would say is if you're going to drink alcohol, save it for those special occasions. And when you drink, don't drink very much and stay away from the heavy stuff, like the liquors. Wine, beer, not the worst form of alcohol. All right. Okay. Enough said about the harms of alcohol. You probably knew this stuff already. I'm not here to lecture you about it. In fact, don't forget, I told you that at the very beginning, alcohol is part of our humanity. So my recommendation is to keep alcohol, reserve drinking to those important life occasions, all right? And if you're going to drink alcohol, choose one of the alcohols that's less alcohol itself by percentage. Beer and wine have less alcohol than vodka, for example, all right? And if you're drinking, drink in moderation. Keep it to like one drink or less, all right? And never drink alone. And if you have concerns about your relationship with alcohol, definitely talk to your doctor about it. And your doctor, he or she, can give you more specific direction on how to protect your health overall. Top line, okay, on this thing is that for longevity, keep alcohol to a minimum because it is a toxin. All right. The next food that you want to avoid are fried foods if you want to actually live long and prosper. Now, I'm going to actually explain why this is. Listen, fried foods are tasty. They're crispy. A lot of people, most people actually love crispy food. I know I love it. All right. I love something that's crunchy. All right. Golden brown, crispy, crunchy. All right. And we grew up eating a lot of this stuff, and it's always reminds me of all the tasty foods of your childhood, like French fries, fish and chips, nuggets, chicken nuggets, and then later on, and as you get older, you like tempura and then deep fried vegetables. There's all kinds of tasty, frying foods has been around for a long, long time. And here's the thing. Researchers have actually figured out that they can be harmful because there's a chemical reaction that occurs in the food when you're actually frying them to turn that golden brown. That chemical reaction is called the Maillard reaction. It's spelled Maillard, the Maillard reaction. And when you fry something at high enough temperature to turn it golden brown, like starch, for example, this chemical reaction is part of the changing of the color, all right? and it crisps up the food, and it turns the food from whatever color it started into a more golden brown. All right. And if you keep on frying it, it'll turn into clearly a dark brown, and then you've burned it, right? So, but that's the chemical reaction that's actually happening in the fryer. Now, these same chemicals that are generated from frying, by the way, are toxic. All right. In fact, they're also found in cigarette smoke, as an example. And one of those chemicals that you need to know about is called acrylamide. Acrylamide, by the way, if you ever heard of acrylamide, if you went to one of the big box stores, for home improvement, acrylamide is like glue. All right. And cyanoacrylate, that's super glue. All right. So it's a chemical, a pretty potent chemical. And these acrylamides actually form in foods when you're actually frying them. It also forms to an extent when you're baking foods and turning, the golden brown bread, when you're looking at a roast. All these things actually generate acrylamides as you're turning it. So it's a natural chemical reaction. But in fried foods, the acrylamides definitely get into your body, right? And here's the concern. In the lab, these acrylamides have been shown to actually cause cancer in lab animals, right? So here's the thing. This has been studied in the United States. The National Toxicology Program basically put acrylamide in the drinking water of lab rats and mice. And these mice are also had tumors growing on their backs, all right? So here's how the experiment is done. You implant a tumor on the back of an animal, lab animal, all right? It's all done ethically. And then you actually put the acrylamide in the drinking water, right? So the animals are just drinking the water. And then you study what happens to the tumor. And guess what? The animals who are drinking acrylamide compared to just plain water, or the water that was spiked with the acrylamide, had more and bigger tumors. So the tumors were already there. They were implanted. But if they drank the acrylamide, it sped up the number and the size of the tumors, right? So the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, has labeled acrylamide as a likely carcinogen for humans. Likely, all right? So I'm not saying that the proof is there yet, but scary enough to think about that, like when you're going to the carnival and you're getting the fry bread, or you're getting the whatever else, the fried dough, or the fries. Think about exactly what you're actually consuming is the product of a chemical reaction, natural chemical reaction, in starches that turn things golden brown and crispy. It's unfortunate, right? Like, we like the taste, but unfortunately the stuff that's generated along the way, not good for our health. So what's the solution? Well, every now and then you might want to eat something fried, but just eat it in very, very small quantities, and don't eat it too often. All right. Don't eat fried foods on a regular basis, and you're going to be okay. Your body will actually take care of some of these acrylamides. It has an ability to be able to do it, but don't be eating fried foods all the time. Okay, the fifth food that you want to avoid if you want to live long for longevity is a beverage, and that is soda. And it could be either diet soda or regular soda, and there's different reasons why they're each one is not good for you when it comes to longevity. And I'll walk you through them, all right? The first thing is that regular soda is a sugar-sweetened beverage, all right? Diet soda is a beverage that has artificial sweeteners added to it. So it's not glucose, it's non-nutritive sweetener. Tastes sweet without the calories, all right? So both types of beverages, both regular soda and diet soda, are popular everywhere in the world. I don't know a single person who hasn't drank a soda sometime in their past and probably liked it. I mean, listen, on a super hot summer day, I got to tell you, nothing like a soda to slake your thirst, right? Okay, but we're talking about health and we're talking about longevity. So I want to tell you first why regular soda is not good for you from a health perspective. And that's because regular soda is packed with added sugar, right? So how much added sugar? Well, a typical can of soda that you might get, the pop top comes right off and you're swigging a can of soda. Average can of soda has 9 teaspoons of cane sugar. Now, if you came to my house and I offered you a drink, and instead of giving you a soda, I gave you an empty glass and I put 9 teaspoons of sugar in it, and I basically said, here, drink it. You would not do it. You'd say, that's disgusting. I'm not going to do that. And yet, when you drink a can of soda, that's exactly what you're doing. Now, why is that a problem? Well, sodas are considered to be empty calories. Now, I used to be confused, like, what, I don't even know what that means. I'm going to tell you what it means. Anything we put in our body, food-wise or beverage-wise, is potential fuel for our body. And we need sugar, like sugar from fruits or vegetables. Like we're happy, our body's happy to take up that sugar in order to be able to run the machinery of our body, including our brain, which actually really needs a lot of energy. And in fact, we don't eat sugar from our diet. Our body will make sugar in order to be able to run itself. That's how important it is for our metabolism. However, the problem with soda is it's full of empty calories. And let me explain that to you. An empty calorie beverage is basically one where you're getting a lot of calories from the glucose, from the sugar, but there's not much else in it other than water and maybe some preservatives and additives that you don't actually want. But unlike calories that come with fruits, for example, you're only getting the calories, only getting sugar in a soda. Now, if you had a fruit, you would actually be getting a lot of other things. You'd be getting dietary fiber, which is good for your gut microbiome, your gut defense. You'd be getting polyphenols, which can be good for your blood vessels, good for your stem cells, good for your gut microbiome again, good for protecting your DNA, and also good for your immunity. So that's why we say, whole fruit beats something with empty calories all the time. They may have the same number of calories, but the whole food, is actually going to have a lot more value to it. That's what we mean by empty calories. All right, that's what soda is. And the sugar in soda puts a huge load on your metabolism. Right, you get a ton of sugar. You're going to get your insulin is going to come out. It's got to store that sugar in your muscle. Anything extra, some of it goes in your liver. Anything extra is going to be stored into body fat. So you're storing all this extra sugar in your body fat. If you drink a lot of soda, you're going to gain weight. And you're going to gain weight by growing visceral fat. This is the harmful type of body fat that lives in the tube of your body. All right, just because the sugar is actually fuel in your body, your metabolism will store it in your fat cells. And if you're drinking a lot of it, you're going to fill up one fat cell like a fuel tank. You're going to still having more sugar. You're going to actually fill up another one and another one. Oh, run out of fat cells. Let's go make some new fat cells out of our stem cells and fill that one up, and then fill another one up. Oh, you're still having really sweet, sugar-sweetened beverage? Let's fill up another one. And you're going to start building up a mound of this fat. All right. So, and by the way, as you build up the fat, okay, you're actually going to put stress in that expanding mass of fat. And because fat requires a blood supply, the bigger you grow, the faster the growth will actually outstrip what the blood supply can bring in terms of oxygen and nutrients. Now, the center of the fat becomes hypoxic, doesn't get enough oxygen, all right? It's like feeling like it's choking. And when you have hypoxia, not enough oxygen, it's a setup for inflammation. And when fat becomes inflamed, which is what happens when you build up extra body fat, you have so many calories you're taking in all the time. Added sugar is a great and an unfortunate way of doing this, all right, but it knows how to do it really, really well. And you wind up having inflamed fat. And inflammation in your fat derails the hormones in your body that are important for fighting insulin resistance. Let me repeat that. Your fat produces hormones that collaborate with insulin to actually make your body sensitive to insulin so you can bring glucose in very efficiently. But when you actually have inflamed fat, you actually knock this whole hormone out of balance, and now it can't collaborate with insulin. So you wind up developing insulin resistance, and you don't bring in glucose very efficiently into your cells, right? So then what happens? The glucose levels in your blood rise. You're resistant to the insulin. So your body makes more insulin. Your pancreas, as the organ, makes more insulin to try to bring in the sugar. Still not working because the adiponectin is out of whack because of fat inflammation. Your blood sugar rises even higher. Now, when you're actually drinking a beverage like a soda that is filled with empty calories and you're putting this huge load in, you're just going to be building more and more fat, causing more and more inflammation. It is circling the drain. All right. This is actually a problem that keeps on getting worse. Okay. So that is actually why if you want longevity, you don't want to be causing insulin resistance. Insulin resistance will eventually lead to metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is high blood sugar, high blood pressure, high blood cholesterol, and an expanding waistline because the visceral fat is expanding, right? You got to keep it on storing fuel in your body fat. So you stretch it out. You stretch out the tube of your body. Your waistline becomes larger. That's metabolic syndrome. And that metabolic syndrome eventually, if you don't do anything about it, you can reverse it. But if you don't, it'll eventually take you into type 2 diabetes. Once you get into the zone of type 2 diabetes, if you don't actually take steps to reverse it. Now, type 2 diabetes is reversible in many people. But if you don't take any steps to really, ideally you prevent it. But if you don't prevent it, you can still reverse it, but you got to take action. You got to take definitive action. If you don't, you're going to wind up heading right down this highway of danger to cardiovascular disease, stroke, nerve damage, chronic wounds. I mean, you're going to wind up actually getting these long-term conditions that compromise your longevity. All right. Now, I built a whole case for not having soda, and drinking one can or one bottle, that's not going to do it. It is a continuous pattern of overconsumption that'll do it. And I know a lot of people drink a lot of regular soda.
Hey there, if you're ready to take control of your health using the power of food, then I encourage you to check out my Eat to Beat Disease online course. More than 4,000 people from 80 countries have taken it, and now they know how to eat to beat disease. And you can too. I personally developed all the material in this course, drawing from my latest research and my years of experience. It's designed to give you practical, science-based strategies that you can use to boost your health every single day. To learn more, click the link below.
Okay, what about diet soda, right? Isn't diet soda supposed to be better for you, right? It doesn't put calories in your body, so it should be better for your heart. It should be help you lose weight, right? Wrong. It turns out that people who drink diet soda actually gain weight and their health is not better. In fact, sometimes it's even worse. So for a long time, people are scratching their heads like, how could that be? Isn't the diet soda better for you, right? Well, here's the story. We now know that artificial sweeteners, and these are the ones you find in diet sodas, sucralose, aspartame, even saccharin, and there's some other artificial flavorings that are out there, not to mention the artificial color, all right? But these artificial sweeteners can damage your gut microbiome. Again, your gut microbiomes are your body's health defenses. I write about this in Eat to Beat Disease. One of your health defenses is the gut microbiome. And when you have artificial sweeteners, it damages the gut microbiome. We don't know exactly the magnitude of damage that it causes, but we do know that it actually can wreak destruction on your gut microbiome. Now remember, your gut microbiome is responsible for lowering your blood cholesterol. And isn't that what you're supposed to be trying to do, is eat healthier by having a non-nutritive sweetener? Your gut microbiome is also responsible for protecting your insulin sensitivity. In other words, countering insulin resistance. Well, if you actually damage your gut microbiome with a diet soda, with aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, guess what? Well, now your gut microbiome can't actually protect against insulin resistant. So now your blood sugars go up. Ironically, you thought you weren't having caloric sweetener, but in fact, your blood glucose is actually going up. And you've damaged your gut microbiome. And now all of your other health defenses are coming down as well. You're not healing as well. Your immune system is weaker. And because the gut microbiome, normally, when they're healthy, lower inflammation. Now inflammation starts rising in your body. And you don't want that. That's another setup for chronic diseases. So don't forget, we are talking about what are the things that you want to avoid if you want longevity. And I'm just telling you, drinking regular soda is damaging to your metabolism, all right, because of the empty calories. And drinking diet soda is damaging because it actually harms your gut microbiome and all those important functions that the gut microbiome is performing. Now you've actually whacked them, all right? So they're not going to be doing their job. And so to prosper, you need those good gut microbiome and a good metabolism all working, firing in all cylinders to be able to protect your health. All right. So what are some of the solutions, alternatives to drinking soda? Well, you got three great choices: water, tea, or coffee. All right. Now, water, tea, or coffee, all three of these beverages are linked to better, longer longevity, longer life. All right. Drinking water is important for hydration. All right. And when you get dehydrated, your organs actually age faster and they can fail. Tea, the polyphenols in green tea, and even some of the dietary fiber in some teas, like matcha tea, very important for activating your health defenses. It shores up your health, wards off disease, lowers inflammation. Quite remarkable, all the different things that tea can actually do for you. And by the way, we always talk about green tea, right? And yes, green tea is helpful. Polyphenols, catechins, specifically, perhaps best studied is EGCG. That's epigallocatechin 3 gallate, EGCG. You guys don't need to memorize all this stuff. Leave it to the scientists, and we're working on this stuff. But I can tell you that this EGCG, the tea polyphenols, really improve our circulation, all right, which you need for longevity. It cuts off the blood supply to cancer, which can be very, very important, actually, to prevent cancer as well, lower the risk for cancer. The EGCG actually can kill some cancer stem cells. A study in Britain actually showed that matcha tea, that really, really super powerful powdered green tea that you might have in a sushi bar at a Japanese restaurant. All right, it's absolutely delicious. That's the entire tea leaf with the stem removed and powdered. So you get all the dietary fiber and all the polyphenols from the leaf. Really super powerful. That's been shown, matcha tea has been shown to kill breast cancer stem cells in the lab. That's quite remarkable because we don't have a drug that can actually kill breast cancer stem cells or any cancer stem cell. Kind of a holy grail. And here, Mother Nature beat us to it. The researchers have shown that matcha is actually beneficial by helping to kill in the lab cancer stem cells. Amazing. All right. The other thing that these catechins or polyphenols in tea do, they are antioxidant, very important for protecting our DNA, and they improve our immune system, which is really great. The dietary fiber is good for the gut microbiome. And on top of that, green tea has actually been shown to be calming. It lowers your blood pressure. So not surprisingly, countries where a lot of tea is consumed, like in Asia, people will drink tea at night. It's actually very, very relaxing. But it's not just green tea. Black tea has also been shown to be beneficial because you also have the polyphenols are still in there. Maybe a little less than green tea, but enough to actually make it useful. In fact, one study out of Italy looked at the power of black tea, all right, like English breakfast tea, to be able to protect stem cells in your body and improve the stem cells that are circulating. Now, we have stem cells in our body, and these stem cells regenerate us from the inside out. So if you want to talk about longevity, you want to be healed from the inside out, and you want that kind of process to be regular and maintaining your overall health. Black tea actually maintains helps maintain the levels of stem cells in your body. All right. So that black tea is good. And then even fermented teas, if you take it really black tea, like the smoked fermented tea, there's a kind of tea in China, Southwest China, called pu'er tea. P-U''ERH. Pu'er tea from Southwest China. It's a fermented tea. All right. It's a digestive. Actually, it's good for digesting a meal. And we now know why. Because it is fermented, so it is a probiotic tea. Good for gut health, good for digestion. And in fact, they've been able to find the bacteria that's growing, the unique bacteria that's grown in pu'er tea. So all of these teas have health benefits. The pu'er tea actually improves your metabolism and helps you burn down extra harmful body fat. good for longevity. Now, should you be drinking tea all day long? No. What's the dose of the tea that's been shown to be beneficial on average? About 3 to 4 cups of tea has been shown to hit that sweet spot. Little pro tip about tea: if you want get the most out of these polyphenols, don't put dairy product in your tea. Don't put milk, don't put cream, don't put half and half. And the reason is that dairy fat will form little soap bubbles, tiny little soap bubbles around the polyphenols. And then when you drink it, those soap bubbles prevent the polyphenols from being absorbed in your stomach. So it just tumbles down your gut, and you miss out on absorbing a good amount of these polyphenols. And this is dairy fat, okay? Again, forming these little bubbles, soap bubbles around the beneficial catechins and polyphenols. However, if you want to cut your tea with a little milk-like substance, it turns out that nut milks don't form these bubbles. So almond milk, cashew milk, all fine. Soy milk, also fine. Plant-based milks don't form those kind of soap bubbles. So that's a good way to actually add a little dairy, non-dairy, plant-based milk to your tea as an alternative to be able to get the most out of it. So tea, very good for longevity. Also slows down the burn of your telomeres. Your telomeres are like the caps on the end of your DNA. And when you're aging, the caps burn down like a candle, all right, like the wick of a candle. And certain things like stress and ultra-processed foods and there's a lot of things that actually speed up the burn of your fuse. That's the opposite of longevity. What you want to do is to actually slow down that burn, slow down the wick burning. Okay, when the wick is down, that's it. When you're done, when it's done, you're done. And so to slow down the rate of the burn of the wick, okay, that's your telomere. It's a protective cap. That's one of the things that tea can also do. And tea is also good for immunity. All right. Now, what about coffee? Well, coffee has another polyphenol. It's called chlorogenic acid. Chlorogenic acid is found in coffee. It's found in apples. It's found in pears. So it's not only in coffee, but there's a lot of it in coffee. Coffee has been shown to slow down the burn of your telomeres, and the chlorogenic acid lowers inflammation. All right. And coffee improves your immunity. Coffee can also cut off the blood supply to cancer, which then starves cancer, which can help to prevent cancer. And so again, for all these reasons, these three substances, water, tea, and coffee, are actually the beverages that you should swap out from your soda and swap in for a healthier choice. All right, so toss a soda, regular diet, add in water, tea, or coffee. I call that the holy trinity of healthy beverages. All right. Oh, and by the way, coffee, same deal as the tea. Don't put dairy milk in it because the chlorogenic acid will have little soap bubbles that'll form with dairy fat. But if you actually use nut milk, totally fine. Soy milk, totally fine. You'll actually get the chlorogenic acid. Oh, one more little tip about coffee. If you get organic coffee beans, you're going to get more chlorogenic acid because it turns out chlorogenic acid is a natural substance produced by the plant to defend itself against a little nibbling that the insects actually do to the leaves and the stem of a coffee plant. Now, think about it. If you take conventionally grown coffee that's sprayed with pesticides, all right, fewer bugs, nature, than nibbling in the leaves and the stem. So the coffee plant doesn't need to actually make as much healing substance. So chlorogenic acids are lower in conventionally grown, but organic, grown in the most natural environment, there's all those little nibbling bugs that are nibbling on the stems and the leaves. And so the plant has to defend itself, more chlorogenic acid. Little pro tip for you when you're trying to find out what type of coffee to actually to buy. All right. So holy trinity of beverages, include those: water, tea, coffee. Ditch the soda, regular or diet. All right. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can tell you about longevity from the purposes of things that you really want to avoid. I mean, obviously, take care to make good decisions when it comes to accidents. I mean, take a look at the statistics. You can search this on Google, but accidents are a common cause of death, which is basically depriving you of longevity, and they're largely avoidable, right? So don't drive, don't speed, wear a seatbelt, wear a bicycle helmet. Like these are the common things that will protect you from dying by just being careful. Avoid breathing solvents and things like that. Painters, people who are creating art, they're breathing the oil paints and all these other kind of things. Wear a mask. All right. I know it's not popular to wear a mask, but when you're breathing all those solvents, you're actually assaulting your DNA. And all those things can actually compromise your longevity. So avoid accidents, avoid exposures, stay physically active. That's one of the easiest things that you can do to actually kind of tip the odds towards longevity. And that's it for now. We went through a lot of stuff. Okay, hope you learned something new with this. And thanks very much for watching. And I will catch you on the next video. Dr. Lee out.
Hi there. If you enjoyed watching this video, I know you'll love the next one. Stay here and check it out. And I'll see you there.